National statistics show that motorcycle crashes, or people who are riding motorcycles at the time of a crash, have a much, much higher likelihood of dying as a result of that crash. And it makes sense because they are going up against anything from a 3,000-pound car to an 80,000-pound tractor trailer. And we at Farah Farah have seen both of those and everything in between causing a motorcycle crash or a motorcycle death. When you have someone who has contacted you because they've lost a loved one in a motorcycle crash, it's a difficult conversation. You try to be empathetic to the person. You are empathetic to the person that's lost their loved one. But at the same time, you are being contacted and being retained to go try to get a financial recovery for that person. And that can be a very difficult conversation because on the one hand, you're there to try to collect money for your client that's contacting you. On the other hand, you certainly don't want to create the impression that anybody's trying to set some type of financial value on the loved one that they lost. So we've got the resources here at Farah Farah to deal with that. Each of our attorneys has staff members who will be in routine contact with the client. We as the attorneys are in routine contact with the client. And then we've got the investigators necessary in order to gather the facts necessary to prove that the other vehicle caused the motorcycle crash. We also have a very high incidence of fractures. We see people involved in motorcycle crashes often have fractures. Lots and lots of times they are leg fractures, either from being thrown off of the motorcycle and having their body land on the ground, or from having their leg pinned under the motorcycle. So we see fractures from the foot to the ankle to the shin, knee fractures, and as well as femur fractures. The femur is basically the thigh bone. It's the biggest bone in the body. And what strikes me when we have clients with those types of fractures, it's unimaginable the amount of force their body must have gone through in that motorcycle crash to snap the biggest bone in the body in half, or to cause it to splinter. That is a fracture that we see very frequently. We also see shoulder injuries from landing on a shoulder. A lot of times we'll have a rider as a client and they'll come to us with a fractured leg, but they had a prior motorcycle crash where they injured their shoulder. At Farah Farah, we also see, unfortunately, we see traumatic brain injuries because sometimes people don't wear helmets. And so that obviously is a concern. We'll see collapsed lungs because there was such an impact to the chest cavity when someone is thrown off of a motorcycle. But we also see other injuries that we see in motor vehicle accidents. We see neck injuries, we see low back injuries. Basically, when you're riding a motorcycle and you are involved in a crash, there's no cushion there. It's you versus either metal or asphalt or dirt. That's why the injuries we see are usually very severe to catastrophic. At Farah Farah, we have seen any type of injury that you could possibly have in a motorcycle crash, whether that's death, whether it's neck, back, leg injury. We've seen it all, and Farah Farah is prepared and ready to fight, and Farah Farah has the resources to fight, either for the loss of your loved one or for your own injuries and your own catastrophic injuries that involve tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical expenses. And from our intake department to our investigators, to our attorneys, to our legal support staff, we have the ability to gather all of the evidence, and we will gather all of the evidence necessary for your motorcycle crash when you retain Farah Farah.